Hello everyone, Justin here, and today I'd like to talk about using pen strokes in your drawing. Depending on how you use your pen strokes, you can convey different things. So let's go ahead and just start with some examples here. I'm going to draw a couple parallel lines here, and if you draw lines that are consistent in width, thickness, what you can basically do here is convey color and different shades of color. So let's say that's like a red, and then if there's like a blue, you would just go ahead and maybe add a second layer of crosshatch lines, and that would convey color. So let's say there's a stripe going down this blue area, so we would add another that's darker, a stripe that's darker. We would add another consistent line going across. So the result then is a flat surface. Let's look at another example, and we can use strokes as value. So let's do the same thing as far as drawing these lines all the way across. And now we're going to crosshatch this side first and add another layer, except I'm going to go farther, and one more layer on this edge. So what you have here is the effect of having a tube where it's round, and this is the lightest area. The light's coming from here, and it's the dark form shadows on this side. This time we're going to do a curved shape, and what we're going to do is we're going to use these strokes as texture. So this could convey, say, feathers or some other uneven material. And what we're basically doing is just trying to simulate the texture of the surface. So the lines are radiating, and the edges look rough and can also convey fur. So we can just do this, and we could still convey the shadows by adding more of these kind of lines where there would be shadow. So the edges right here, instead of seeing a straight line, would have these texture lines covering them up. So let's say this side is in shadow, so we can just add more lines here on this side. So by varying the strokes, then you can see that the surface is not smooth the way they are over here. So of course you could also combine these strokes. So let's go ahead and start with putting in parallel lines all the way across to get a tone, get some value in first. So we've got some crosshatch going on here, but then I'm also going to add some uneven lines to show that this is not a smooth surface. So we've got a ragged surface here, but you also have value in the same way that you have value here as far as dark shadows here. But here we're using straight lines towards the middle to show the middle gray area. Let's draw another set, and this time we're going to use these shorter strokes, and we're basically showing the contour of the surface. Notice that I'm kind of curving each of these strokes. There's still a consistent pattern to how I'm doing this. as far as the direction and batches of strokes, but by doing it this way you can convey somewhat the contour of the surface, say feathers. So these could be short feathers, but you can also show contour by following the direction. Say you're trying to convey that this particular shape here has a curve, kind of like a cylinder. So if this was a part of an animal's body and they have hair, you could curve the lines to follow the contour of that particular surface. And I'll leave the right area light to show that that area is getting the light, and I'll add more of these lines on this side of this cylinder to show some value as well. Alright, so let's go one more. Another texture that you can use, of course, is using dots. This is, to me, is very time consuming, and I rarely do this unless it's just a small part of the drawing, just to convey somewhat smoother texture. So if you're careful with using dots and keep it fairly consistent, and if you have the patience, you can convey a very smooth surface, because just the nature of just having dots, you avoid the rough texture that you would get with, say, straight, harsh pen lines. So when you get to the darker areas here, you really gotta add a lot of dots, and this is why I don't really care for it. It's just too time consuming. I do not have the patience for this. But just to show you, there are people who do this, and they do spend hours and hours to get their drawings to look as nice as they do, and they look amazing. If I did a how-to tutorial on drawing something using this technique, that video would be hours long unless you time-lapse it. So you can see that it takes a lot of time, and it's easy to end up with these short lines instead of dots if you don't have your pen perfectly up and down, unless you're really careful. So keep your pen as vertical as you can when you do these. And like I said, I still use this technique, don't get me wrong. I'll use this technique in certain areas of a drawing to convey that particular texture. For example, the inside of a flower, the center part of a flower, sometimes I'll just use these dots or like little circles to show that you're looking at the ends of these little parts of the flower. So of course the most important way you could use a stroke would be as an outline, just like here. So just like that, you could use that as an outline, and then you could fill in the areas then with however way you want as far as shading, but you still need the line as an outline. Now, if you could also, of course, do your shading without any outline and use purely your shading technique, such as crosshatch, without an outline. And the way to do that generally is to draw in your sketch or drawing first with a pencil. That way you have a guide as to where to put in your lines, and then erase the outline, your pencil outline, afterwards. So I'm just using these really long strokes for my shading here. And I will use this technique for drawing clouds, for example. Just long lines. It kind of conveys some softness and a wispy quality. And that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you got a little something out of this, and this will help you with your pen drawings. Thanks, and have a great day.